Apptronik has revealed Apollo 2, but the robot itself may not be the most important part of the announcement. Behind it is Robot Park, a large training facility where humanoid robots repeat physical tasks and collect real-world data. Apollo 2 isn't being presented as the final commercial product. It's the machine Apptronik is using to help train the next generation. So, can this robot data factory finally turn impressive humanoid demonstrations into dependable workers? For years, humanoid robots have impressed audiences with short demonstrations. They walk, carry boxes, sort objects, and respond to simple instructions. But commercial work is much harder. A useful robot must repeat tasks hundreds or thousands of times, deal with unexpected situations, recover from mistakes, and operate around people without creating unacceptable risks. On June 30th, Apptronik publicly introduced Apollo 2 alongside the expansion of its real-world robot training program. By the end of this video, you'll understand what Apollo 2 is, how humanoid robots learn, and what Apptronik still needs to prove. Apollo 2 wasn't suddenly created for this announcement. Apptronik says the platform had already been operating inside Robot Park for more than a year before its public introduction. Reuters also reported that Apptronik CEO Jeff Cardenas said the company had built hundreds of Apollo 2 robots. However, Apptronik hasn't disclosed exactly how many are operating at customer locations. Robot Park is a nearly 90,000 square foot facility in Austin, Texas. Inside it, Apollo robots perform tasks connected to manufacturing, logistics, and retail. The company is also gathering real-world experience through selected partnerships and customer deployments involving organizations such as Google DeepMind, Mercedes-Benz, and logistics company GXO. The goal is to expose the robots to different objects, layouts, workflows, and mistakes, not just one carefully prepared demonstration. Apollo 2 comes in two main mobility configurations. The bipedal version walks on two legs, allowing it to move through spaces designed for people. The wheeled version replaces the legs with a mobile base. Wheels may appear less impressive, but they can offer greater stability, lower energy use, and simpler operation inside structured warehouses and factories. This shows that Apptronik isn't assuming every task requires a fully human-shaped machine. Legs can be used where human-style mobility provides a real benefit. Wheels may be more practical where floors are smooth and the environment is predictable. Apptronik hasn't released a complete public Apollo 2 specification sheet. However, Apollo's established design includes cameras, status lights, a chest display, specialized actuators, and swappable batteries. The cameras allow the robot to observe its surroundings. The lights and chest display can communicate information such as operating status, battery condition, and task progress. Actuators function like the robot's artificial muscles. They convert electrical energy into controlled movement at joints such as the shoulders, elbows, hips, and knees. Swappable batteries could also reduce downtime by allowing a depleted battery to be replaced instead of leaving the entire robot connected to a charger. But capable hardware is only part of the challenge. A powerful robot body without useful intelligence is still just an expensive machine. This is where Robot Park becomes important. Imagine teaching Apollo to collect components from storage shelves and place them inside a manufacturing kit. At first, a human operator may control the robot remotely. This is called teleoperation. The operator sees through the robot's cameras and controls its arms, hands, or body. As the task is completed, the system can record what the robot observed, how its joints moved, and whether the attempt succeeded. These demonstrations can support imitation learning. Imitation learning means the AI studies examples of a human performing a task and learns to produce similar actions. But the robot can't simply memorize one movement. It must connect what it sees with what it should do next. If an object moves slightly, Apollo must adjust its hand position. If something blocks its path, it may need to approach from another direction. If an object begins to slip, the robot needs to react before dropping it. This is where real-world variation becomes important. A robot may perform well in a controlled demonstration and still fail when the lighting changes, an object is damaged, or something unexpected enters the workspace. Collecting varied experience can help the system learn which parts of a task remain consistent and which conditions may change. Apptronik also uses physics simulation. Simulation allows engineers to test movements and control systems inside a virtual environment without damaging real hardware. The robot can repeat tasks many times, including situations that would be expensive or dangerous to recreate physically. But simulation isn't perfect. Differences in friction, object weight, materials, and sensor behavior can cause a movement that works virtually to fail in the real world. This is known as the sim-to-real gap. Real-world data helps reduce that gap. Google DeepMind's role is mainly connected to the intelligence layer. Its Gemini robotics work includes vision language action models. Vision means the system processes what the robot sees. Language means it understands an instruction such as, place the blue component inside the empty tray. Action means it converts that understanding into commands that move the robot. Google DeepMind is also developing embodied reasoning, the ability to understand physical space, plan several steps, and judge whether a task has succeeded. However, public information doesn't reveal exactly which Gemini models are operating on Apollo 2, which functions run directly on the robot, or how frequently human assistance is required. Imagine a warehouse preparing component kits for a factory. A human worker may walk between shelves, identify the correct items, and place them inside a container. A traditional industrial robot can automate part of this process. However, it often requires fixed object positions, specially designed equipment, or a workspace built around the machine. Apollo's promise is different. Because it is designed for environments built for people, it could potentially use existing shelves, containers, and workstations. But potentially is the important word. Apollo only becomes valuable if it can perform those tasks reliably and at an acceptable operating cost. Robot Park could create a continuous feedback loop. A robot performs a task. Its successes, mistakes, and human interventions produce data. That data helps improve the AI. The improved system returns to the robot fleet and generates more experience. This resembles the data flywheels that helped improve internet-based AI systems. But collecting physical robot data is slower and more expensive than collecting text or images. It requires real machines, objects, operators, electricity, maintenance, and physical space. From a technology perspective, this may be the most important part of Apollo 2. The potential breakthrough isn't one perfect algorithm. It is the attempt to connect robot hardware, human demonstrations, simulation, AI foundation models, and real customer deployments into one continuous learning system. Apollo's 2 mobility configurations could also give businesses more flexibility. A warehouse without stairs may choose the wheeled version. It could gain the manipulation and perception abilities of the humanoid upper body without accepting all the complexity of 2-legged walking. Legs could then be reserved for environments where human-style mobility provides a genuine operational advantage. Now here's the catch. Apptronik hasn't released enough performance data to prove that Apollo works economically at commercial scale. We don't have detailed public measurements for autonomous task success rates, cycle times, operating hours between failures, human intervention, maintenance costs, or productivity compared with conventional automation. Without those numbers, it's impossible to calculate whether Apollo can produce a real return on investment. A demonstration may show a robot completing a task once. A factory manager needs to know whether it can complete that task thousands of times under changing conditions. Long tasks also create accumulated risk. Even when a robot performs individual movements accurately, small mistakes can build up over many steps. The robot must detect errors, understand what went wrong, and recover without creating another problem. Teleoperation also creates a business question. Human operators are valuable for teaching robots and rescuing them from unusual situations. But if Apollo constantly requires remote assistance, the labor hasn't disappeared. It has simply moved from the factory floor to a control station. Safety is another major issue. Apptronik says Apollo is designed with safety systems that can slow or pause the robot when people enter defined areas. These controls may reduce risk, but they don't prove the robot can operate safely in every workplace or situation. AI systems must still be combined with conventional safety engineering, restricted operating zones, physical movement limits, testing, and human supervision. The realistic view is that early Apollo deployments will probably focus on repetitive and clearly defined tasks inside controlled environments. Humanoid robots are unlikely to replace entire workforces in the immediate future. The next major robot to watch may not be Apollo 2. Apptronik says the data and experience collected from Apollo 2 will support Apollo 3, its planned next-generation commercial platform. According to Apptronik CEO Jeff Cardenas, pilot deployments will continue through 2026, with production versions expected from 2027 and beyond. The next step is proving that Apollo's training strategy can move beyond controlled demonstrations. Apptronik will need to show longer and less edited operations inside real workplaces. Customer deployments will also need to grow from small pilots into repeatable operations involving multiple robots. Most importantly, the company must demonstrate that knowledge collected in one environment can improve performance somewhere else. That transfer of skills is central to the foundation model strategy. There are 3 realistic outcomes. In the strongest outcome, Robot Park creates a successful data flywheel. Apollo robots become steadily more capable, customer deployments generate useful training experience, and Apollo 3 arrives with skills that transfer across different workplaces. In a more moderate outcome, Apollo succeeds only in narrow and structured tasks. The robots become useful industrial equipment, but they still require customized integration, regular supervision, and controlled environments. In the difficult outcome, humanoid robots remain too complicated and expensive. Companies may discover that wheeled robots, fixed robotic arms, or redesigned workplaces can perform the same tasks more efficiently. The human body is flexible, but copying that flexibility creates enormous engineering complexity. Apollo 2 matters, but not because it has solved humanoid robotics. It matters because Apptronik is building the infrastructure needed to train physical AI. The company is connecting robots, real-world training facilities, simulation, customer deployments, and Google DeepMind's AI research. That is more meaningful than one impressive demonstration. But it's still a strategy, not proof. The real test will come when Apollo can work for long periods, recover from mistakes, operate around people with acceptable risk, and create enough economic value to justify its cost. So what will define the winner of the humanoid robot race? The company with the most advanced robot? Or the company with the best system for teaching robots how to work? Share your view in the comments. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.